And although there's plenty of other reasons why social media can affect your empathy levels, here's one you probably haven't thought about. Have you noticed a lack of empathy from people lately? You might say empathy's for the weak. And if that's the case, I'd say I feel bad for you. And I'd also say you're doing a disservice to your kids if you're a parent, because we should be modeling what empathy looks like on a regular basis. One of the main reasons why there's such a lack of empathy from people can be traced back to social media. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why that might be happening, and I'm going to give you some tips on what you can do to help give yourself a good empathy reset so that you're feeling a little bit better about yourself and you can help others. So here's a foundational principle. When you're feeling good about yourself, you're usually more empathetic to others. In other words, when you're feeling good about the things that are happening in your life, you're more willing to reach out and help others who might need help, or you're just more willing to listen to others and try to understand their perspectives a little bit more. If you need an example, think about nonprofit organizations and businesses. What do they do to try to stir up some money for whatever great things that they're trying to do? They'll invite people to some big event and they'll socialize them, turn on some music, maybe have some drinks, and get them feeling good about themselves before they actually pitch for their money to go towards whatever thing that it is that they're hoping they get. Like funding for medical supplies or research. They need funds to help their business grow so they can do good things. So what do? They bubble up the people and get them feeling good about themselves, and they become more empathetic to the cause that they're there to support, and they give more money. Today, I'm not asking you to give more money. I'm just asking you to think about how empathetic you are and how you can help others be more empathetic. But the foundational principle is, if you feel good, you're going to do good, or you're certainly more likely to do good. So what is it about social media that chips away at your ability to be empathetic? Well, I'll give you a few reasons, and actually the last one's probably something you definitely haven't thought about too much. First of all, the content on social media might not be what your brain actually needs to function. In other words, you might be shown things that isn't in your best interest. If you go back to a previous video that I put out, you'll know that a goal of social media is to actually just keep you on their platform. They don't really care about whether it's the best thing for you. They care about keeping you on the platform. And what do we know about social media? It's going to put things in front of you that intrigue you or interest you. And that's not always going to align with what makes you feel good in life overall. I've said previously that one of the platforms that I watch, it will constantly show me things that I don't necessarily need. For example, slap fighting. I would get constant feeds of slap fighting, and it's not good for me to watch. I don't really think it's a great thing for society in general, for people to hit each other until they pass out or knock themselves out. But it kept popping up, and I kept watching it because I was intrigued. It's like watching a car wreck. And so I kept getting it over and over and over again. And in reality, I wasn't walking away feeling really good about myself. It was probably having a reverse effect on me. I was probably walking away feeling worse. So sometimes social media, whether we like it or not, is going to give us things that intrigue us, even though it might not be the best thing for us. And along those same lines, sometimes the things that we see and interact with on social media has an ability to trigger us and make us very emotional. Like if you see something you definitely don't agree with, you fire off a comment and let them know what you think about it. That might not be in the best interest of your mental health or make you feel good in general. But I think we all do it from time to time because we feel like we're triggered, we're emotional, and we want to let them know what we think about them. And in many cases, people aren't all that grounded on social media. They feel like they can say whatever they would like to, and so it's very unfiltered. For example, I recently put out a video that said that I have family that are Republicans, some are Democrats, and some are independents, and shockingly, we all still love each other. You would not believe some of the comments that I got from both sides of the aisle politically, just because I still love people who might not agree with the things that I believe in politically. Crazy, I know. So the tendency to get triggered online is pretty high, and we all have to be careful because it directly affects our mood, which can directly affect our ability to be empathetic for others. Another factor about social media is that this is where a lot of your fringes live. And it makes it seem like a lot more people agree with them than actually may in reality. I recently heard this study about political views, and it turns out about only 14% of the population have the extreme views, the ones way on the left and ones way on the right. However, if you're on social media, you might think it's a whole lot more than 14% because there's a lot of divisiveness that gets flung around. However, that study also says that the vast majority of Americans are more towards the middle. But you would never figure that out on social media and all the things that are thrown around and the rhetoric that exists there. And although there's plenty of other reasons why social media can affect your empathy levels, here's one you probably haven't thought about: sleep. Social media can have a dramatic effect on your ability to sleep. And what do we know about sleep patterns? If you're not sleeping well, you're probably not feeling your best. You're not feeling as great. As somebody who has twins that didn't sleep for 18 months for more than 2 hours at a clip, I can tell you, for those 18 months, I probably wasn't the most patient person in the world. I probably wasn't the most empathetic. I sometimes wonder how my wife and I even survived that patch. Thankfully, we did. However, I can tell you, during that patch of time, we were just thinking about survival. We weren't necessarily thinking about how empathetic and helpful we could be for others. So your sleep and your sleep patterns can have a dramatic impact on how empathetic you're going to be towards others. And another thing to keep in mind about social media is that a lot of people check it right before they go to bed. And so what happens is you then get triggered or find something that maybe makes you upset or even gives you a dopamine hit because it gets you stimulated. And then it gets difficult for you to fall asleep. Or maybe it just becomes challenging in the middle of the night when you wake up and your brain is constantly racing and thinking about the things you saw online. So there's a direct correlation between sleep patterns and your mood, and from your mood to your lack of empathy or your ability to be empathetic. So if our social media is impacting our empathy for others, what do we do? Well, my first question would be, how bad is it? In other words, how addicted to social media are you? If you're completely addicted and it's dramatically affecting not only your empathy but your life in general, maybe it's time for a complete break. There's been plenty of research to say that social media and having a break from it can help to reduce anxiety, help to reduce depression, just help your mental health in general. So if it's a real challenge, maybe a break altogether is what you need. But for most of us, it's probably not realistic to just cut the whole thing cold turkey. So what do we do then? Well, I would start with thinking about, are you using social media before you go to bed? And are you using it first thing in the morning when you wake up? I've already talked about the effects of using social media and getting triggered or having dopamine hits and stimulated before you go to bed. But what about first thing in the morning when you wake up? It might not be the best thing for your brain. Maybe instead turn on a podcast or find something that's soothing, listen to some music, something that's not going to get you stirred up so much right from the jump. And next I would say, you maybe want to think about how you can control your algorithm that feeds you information, feeds you the reels, feeds you the posts, because you actually can take control of that situation. I did a whole video on it. I'll link it at the end. So in order to cure my issues with having slap battles pop into my feed, I had to do some things. First and foremost, I had to quickly scroll past it and train myself anytime I saw that, just flip right on past. And I also made sure to never interact with it or anything else that might trigger me too. Because what happens is the algorithm will feed off of any signals that you give it. So if you hit a like button, sure. Or you watch the full reel, yep. And a big time signal is if you leave a comment or 2 or 3. So if you have a battle in the chat session of a comment session from anything on social media, you're sending a big time signal. I like this apparently, and I'm going to show you more of it. So just be careful about the signals you send to the social media algorithm. And a pro tip, start searching for the things that make you feel good. You can actually find things that are inspirational to you, that make you feel good. Maybe things that will bring out the empathy of you. Search it out and send signals to the algorithm that you like it by hitting the like button and interacting, putting comments, multiple comments, letting the algorithm know this is the kind of stuff that I want. So send some signals to it by watching the whole reel, the whole video, and having some kind of interaction. That's going to tell the algorithm, I like this stuff. I prefer it over the other stuff you've been showing me that makes me angry all the time. And speaking of commenting, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section. Let me know what you think about how social media impacts empathy of people. And as I previously mentioned, you want to train your algorithm? Check out that video. Make it work for you. If you want to go deeper into any kinds of discussions similar to this, check out the Dad's All In podcast.